But do you know that there's two components to reality? Two. Only two. There is the spiritual and there is the material. There's the physical and the material and the immaterial. There's two components. The spiritual realm is invisible. The writer to the Hebrews says, everything made that is seen was made by those things which are not seen. The visible came out of the spiritual. In other words, the physical matter of this world and this galaxy and the universe is supported by the spiritual. And by the way, God is spirit. And it takes those two components for you to really understand reality. If you're viewing things from simply the physical, the material realm, you only have half the picture. And physical senses do us very little good in the spiritual realm. That's why Paul says we walk by faith and not by sight. Faith is the eyes of the Spirit. Faith is the spiritual organ by which we see and hear spiritual reality. Now, why is this such a big deal? It's because we are addicted to the material. The apostles were addicted to the material realm. You see, all of our relationships in life are based upon the physical senses. I love when Sunday evening, when my wife picks me up from the airport, I know what's going to happen. She pulls up and she's going to get out of the car with that big smile, and she's going to run up to me and she's going to put her arms around me. I like that. I'm looking forward to that. And it's not a complaint, I'm not complaining, but one of the challenges for me, because I'm so close to my wife, she's my soul's twin, that's what I call her, is that I have to be away from her so much. Thank God for FaceTime. Although I've already checked, it doesn't look like there's much signal around here. One time I told the Lord, I was really convicted that I'd made my wife an idol. And I was arguing with God. Do you ever argue with God? I'm good at that. I don't win, but I'm good at doing it. And I said, Lord, yeah, I know that's true. But I can see her, I can't see you. That was my argument. I can hear her tell me I love you. I can feel her arms. I don't feel your arms. I can look in her eyes and see the gleam in her eyes. I can't look into your eyes and see the gleam that you have for me. We're addicted to the physical. Even Helen Keller, who had no sight, had no hearing, she learned by touch, the one sense that she still had remaining, sense was touch. And it opened up the whole world to her. And the rest is history. That's how we operate, because we're physical beings. We are material beings. But there's another problem these guys had. Not only were they addicted to the physical, they were lazy. Now again, I know I'll have to face them one day, and they may remind me of this accusation, but I think they would agree. They were simply lazy. What did these guys really have to do for 3 years? Jesus provided, supported, protected, and fed them. Think about it. No wonder their prayer lives stunk. They had God in the flesh. If they ever had a problem, they'd run to Jesus. And He solved it. How do you think they could drop the nets, leave their business? Do you think they let their wives and children starve to death? No. Jesus, through His ministry and the gifts and alms that were given to Him, He dispersed to them, and they could provide for their family. He took care of them. That's the way they made disciples anyway back then. The Jewish rabbi took in the disciple into his own home, clothed him, fed him, took care of him medically, everything he needed in order to teach him. That's what Jesus, He was just simply practicing the same form of discipleship. For 3 years, all they had to do is follow and listen and watch. And they had become so dependent upon the physical man, Christ Jesus. And like them, we depend on ourselves. And that's our default. That's the go position. That's just naturally what we are. But listen, even when you trust in you, you're still exercising faith. It's faith in you. And so the results of trying to live in the spiritual realm, which is where God is spirit, and He's seeking those who will worship Him in spirit and truth. The result of trying to live in the spiritual realm by the physical senses, feel God, see God answer prayer, whatever, is that it always leads to unmet expectations, which will lead to disappointment, disillusionment, discouragement, the sense of abandonment, the sense of failure. How many of you have I just described? I was up in Oklahoma a few weeks ago, and I got a phone call from a pastor who attended the meeting from another church, and he said, "Would you mind helping me try to counsel a woman?" And I found out she was disappointed and disillusioned with God because of something in her past that didn't go the way she wanted it to go. When you try to operate in the spiritual realm with the physical senses, my dear friends, that's what it will always lead to. So what Jesus was saying, guys, you are addicted to your senses in experiencing God. And now I'm telling you, the physical senses will no longer be your experience. And that's to your advantage. And this was a huge paradigm shift for us. Some of us have not yet made that paradigm shift. The disciples thought that Jesus was going to set up His kingdom on this earth, and in that case, He would always be there. They were going to rule and reign with Him. And so why did they have to pay attention to His lessons? I mean, when you study, listen, when you take in information, you take it in differently when you know you're going to be tested. You pay attention, you study, you try to do good, you try to learn the material. They didn't think they were going to be tested. Why? Because they would always have the king. They thought He was going to establish an earthly kingdom at that time. Even while He's getting ready to ascend back to the Father, what's the question they ask Him? Father, Lord, is this the time you're going to restore the kingdom to Israel? They didn't think they would have to learn because they believed He'd always be there. And so when now He's saying, I'm leaving, panic sets in. Panic. Beloved, there has to be a weaning from the material. The Lord wants you to move from the material to the spiritual because that's to your advantage. There's a parallel between the disciples and us tonight. That's what I wanted you to see. They had to be weaned from the physical in order to imbibe the spiritual, drink in, absorb the spiritual. And so Jesus took them.